They use Prince and Princess in the biogs that they've got on this new website. So they refer to Prince Archie and Princess Lilibet. So despite the fact that they have spent the last few years kind of throwing rocks at the wall of the palace, they're all too keen to keep that connection.
So let me just go through their various. They were Archewell when they first left, or did they try something else before that? I'm flicking through my notes here. Yes, SussexRoyal.com was their first go, wasn't it?
SussexRoyal.com didn't go down very well with the palace, of course, because that was kind of an obvious trade on their royal connections, which when they had the Sandringham summit all that time ago, they made assurances that they wouldn't kind of trade on that kind of royal brand. Now, they kept their HRH, but they aren't allowed to use it for commercial purposes. So, essentially it's null and void. They are allowed to keep their titles, which of course they're using here, but there isn't cleverly anywhere in this on the new website that says the word royal. They've been quite careful about that, but what they have done is use that crest, the coat of arms that Meghan got when she came into the royal family.
And is that allowed? Most of us don't have a coat of arms.
Well, we don't, do we? No, sadly. But the Middletons got one when they when Catherine married into the royal family. She married Prince William, so Michael Middleton has one, and Carol. But they are allowed to use it. I mean, it's up to them. I don't think the palace are particularly worried about it. From what I've spoken to them about, they think it's sort of much of the same of what they've been doing for the past few years.
I suppose,
but it's a new direction for sure. I mean, it's very slick. It's from this Canadian company called Archewell that Meghan apparently has been working with for a decade. They've put it together. I mean, it's swish. I mean, this is a huge rebranding exercise.
I'm quite inclined to be supportive of Harry and Meghan in lots of ways, but I've got to say they don't make it easy for me always. And stuff like we're shaping a future through business and philanthropy. I mean, it's going to put backs up, isn't it?
Well, I think that's, that is going to put backs up. I think it's all about putting themselves out onto the stage, isn't it? And I think all this time on, they're still trying to find their feet. So are they one thing or another? They started Archewell to try to do these great productions. It didn't go so well with Spotify, but now Meghan's launched this
she's got a new podcast.
A new podcast with a new female-founded company called Lemonada Media, and their aim in life apparently is to make life suck less by having brilliant podcasts. So it's all very American, which is it doesn't sit so easily with that kind of historical background of the royal family.
It's very easy for us to laugh at that because it is so painfully un-British. But she isn't British and she's entitled to it. If she wants a podcast, good luck to her.
Well, quite right. And I think some of their projects have done really, really well. Their Netflix programme, of course, the thing that really brings in the kind of viewers or the listeners is when they're talking about the royal family. I mean, there's only so much they can carry on with that line because how much more is there left to say if they're not speaking to them or seeing them that much? So
well, and of course, Prince Harry did come over last week, and I think lots of people felt immense sympathy for him and for his father in that moment. Is it possible that some of this business stuff was discussed at that rather short meeting?
I can't imagine much was really discussed at that. They had about 30 minutes before the King flew off to Sandringham, and I'm sure it would have been kind of pleasantries. They hadn't seen each other for 9 months at that point. But I think the timing of this whole thing is really interesting as well, because we're going to see them tonight launching this 1-year countdown to the next Invictus Games, which is Harry's big kind of veterans Paralympic style competition, which you can't fault him for that, really.
It's done really well.
Exactly, and that's a real kind of feather in his cap, I would say, and that started before he left the royal family. He was allowed to take that with him. There's currently a bid underway for Birmingham to host it in 2027. They'll find out later this year if they've been successful on that front, which we'll see it coming back home a decade after it started. So all the timing around their really, really popular, successful project of Invictus, I think that's really, they're striking while the iron's hot.
Here's a fairly typical text. Harry and Meghan are the epitome of hypocrisy and cynicism. Their website opines on their love of equality whilst they walk barefoot on the sand, singing Kumbaya, berating the royal family and reminding us all to use their and their children's royal titles. Is that fair?
Well, that's certainly that listener isn't alone in that point of view, I don't think. But they also, the royal titles is interesting because they use Prince and Princess in the biogs that they've got on this new website. So they refer to Prince Archie and Princess Lilibet. So despite the fact that they have spent the last few years kind of throwing rocks at the wall of the palace, they're all too keen to keep that connection. So,
Well, they have wolves to keep from their many doors, don't they, I guess?
well, it must be expensive running that kind of operation with a huge house and all the staff and everything. So the overheads are large, I expect.
I expect they are. Kate, thank you very much. Kate Manley, who's
Thank you.
assistant editor for The Times and royal commentator. Thank you very much, Kate.